Well, look at that. We're back at it again, and in such a weird timeline at that. Who would have guessed it would have been the Nintendo port of Devil May Cry 3 that would bring us style switching, unlimited blade works, and couch co-op. Since this is like port 15 of this game, I'm going to be looking more at the new features unique to this version, and less at the quality of the remastering. And not at all at the quality of the original game itself, which as you know is immense. Out of all the HD ports of PS2 games, DMC3's was a fairly solid one. Models are lent a crispness from the bump in resolution, but background, pre-rendered looking material fares worse with the increased clarity. A scene as a whole can sometimes look off with this disparity between assets. You can't really beat the analog CRT DMC3 intended look for me, but this is about as good as the original assets are gonna look if you want to play this on a newer console. As for the additional Switch features, I'm glad to see an original mode without them was included, to make sure we're still preserving the intended experience, while offering these crazy new tweaks as a distinct cool new option. There's no non-special edition mode preserved though, so we still have to deal with the Jester fights. At least most of them are optional because I was never too keen on these. As for the gameplay changes added to the new freestyle mode, it's such a small tweak to let Dante switch combat styles on the fly, as well as offering all weapons to swap to in real time. But it makes replaying DMC3 on this remixed mode a fresh experience, even if you've beaten it like 10 times over already. Fans have always dreamt about what a style-switching feature like the one in DMC4 would have been like to play around with in DMC3, to the extent that fan mods on the PC version already exist to try and meet that demand. I suppose as someone who's never been bothered enough to try and get that working on PC, I can't say this is a feature I've been dying to have in DMC3 or anything. But now that I have it here so easily, I can't deny how fun it is, just absolute joyful anarchy. To put things into perspective, we've gone from 1 style and 4 weapons to 6 styles and 10 weapons, which, discounting 5's post-Son of Sparda unlock that lets you throw the duplicate weapons in there, is more to play with in the heat of the moment than any other DMC game, maybe any action game ever, and this is all just by using the base content DMC3 came with. They didn't have to add any moves to the game to make this extra mode feel so fresh. It's merely fully unlocking what was already there and cranking it to its full potential. I know what you're thinking though, if I'm using the D-pad to style switch, how am I going to quickly access the DMC3 map? I know, tragedy, right? Did you know the strip club at the start of the game is called the Love Planet? Okay. If you're coming off a fully upgraded 5 Dante though, there'll be a readjustment period, as you of course will need to re-unlock all the different advanced style moves. Don't try to royal guard in the air off the bat or you'll run into trouble. I really liked this though, because I got to experience what it's like unlocking all of 3's moves, but with the added novelty of getting to integrate them into this new combat framework. It's fun to unlock things and have them immediately there for use, getting me giddy for the possibilities this ability now has, now that I can transition back and forth into it from the entirety of DMC3's move list at any moment. Style switching in DMC4 and 5 allows enemies to come at you in more varied forms. Enemies in 3 with any kind of durability tended to stay on the ground, while in 4 we could afford to have a lot more flying and floating foes that were serious threats. Since more maneuverability and attack options on the player's part in turn allows the enemies to be more mobile too. The few kind of enemies that behave like that in 3 now feel a lot more enjoyable to take on, with trickster dashes, rainstorm and swordmaster techniques all at your disposal at once. My only issue with style switching is that I much prefer to do it on a DualShock, keeping both thumbs on the analog sticks while using my index finger to switch styles. I can't do that on a Switch controller because the analog stick is above the D-pad, so for optimal switching I have to keep my thumb on the D-pad and use my index finger to move, which doesn't feel as good. I've always wondered how to get more weapons into a DMC game to switch to at one time. Once you have more than 4 to cycle through, a sort of linear cycle can get a bit overwhelming. As a Ratchet player, I've always theorized that a weapon wheel could be a good option for that, so it's really cool to see such a thing implemented here. Granted, it is a bit stiff, and I have to admit that mid-combo cycling through steals feel feels a bit more reliable. Switching back and forth between just 2 weapons quickly is also made harder than on the original mode when more stuff is unlocked. It would have been nice to be able to customize how many weapons are on the weapon wheel and in what order, like in DMC5's Quick Select, while retaining the style switching present in freestyle mode. It's cool to think though that the option to switch instantly to any other weapon is here now. Perhaps it's just going to take me more than one playthrough worth of practice to get it down. Of course, choosing what to bring with you into combat was part of the challenge in OG DMC3, so this new freestyle mode lacks that. I thought style switching and having all weapons would make the game too easy. However, I gotta say, I think having all these moves at one time was actually causing me to be a bit too overconfident, and I was getting owned quite a lot. Sticking to the single style tactics I'm used to using when playing DMC3 usually had me faring a lot better. I guess there's gonna be a readjustment period, it's a lot to take on board. It could have also been cool to let you charge your guns outside of Gunslinger in any style, like in DMC4 and 5, but I can see why they might have wanted to stay true to the functionality of the original styles. It's not a big deal. Though not being able to keep Quicksilver or Doppelganger active while switching to another style is a bit disappointing. This might have taken a bit of work to achieve for Doppelganger, but for Quicksilver, surely it couldn't have been that hard to implement. Feels like a bit of a missed opportunity now. Aside from pulling off mad combos, freestyle mode is also just great streamlining for environmental interaction and traversal. You won't get to a combat adjudicator or secret mission and think, shit, maybe I should go to a shop statue to change weapon or style, because if unlocked, you'll definitely have what you need on you already. As for Bloody Palace co-op, it's co-op. DMC3 has amazing combat and it's fun to enjoy it with a friend or bitter rival. It's of course a shame there's no online play. There could be some crazy opportunities here for advanced players to get together for awe-inspiring co-op combos, but it's less likely you'll find those kind of top-level players living in close proximity to each other. Nobody I know can even match my humble skills, so there you go. Also, the split screen the game goes into during bosses really doesn't perform well at all, which is a big shame. That said, I'm always in favor of dorky fun extra multiplayer modes in games, and I hope we get more modes like this going forward in the series. Remember when Itsuno made an entire online co-op infrastructure for DMC5 and then didn't let you play it? The madman strikes again. DMC3 Switch is akin to a fun expansion pack of features for returning fans, which I think is worth the price. You get added combat options to play with, a new game mode, and portability. Great to be able to practice DMC3 wherever I may be. It's hard to dog on any of the game's extra features for being imperfect. One, because they're optional and don't mess with the gameplay of the original if you so choose, and two, because this game could have easily been released on Switch without them and it would have been par for the course for HD ports. However, going forward, I think I'd like to not have to keep rebuying a Devil May Cry game again and again to get added features and updates. DLC would be a preferred method. In the case of this Switch port, that can't be the case because DMC3 hasn't been on this platform before, and also you of course can't update a pre-existing version to be handheld, so that's a novelty that requires a re-release here. But it's become a bit disheartening to keep having my DMC rankings spread across so many versions. I ranked all of OG DMC4 with Nero and Dante, but I'm unlikely to ever get around to doing that again for 4 SE. I like that DMC3 Switch draws a distinction between an original mode save file and a freestyle mode save file, making it clear when a rank has been achieved with or without the new features. So it seems like it wouldn't be much hassle to add freestyle mode to the PS4, Xbox One, and PC versions of the HD collection without overwriting the ranks and achievements players already have there. And that's the kind of approach I'd like to see for a potential DMC5 special edition. Let me just add any new features on top as an extra mode via DLC, so I can keep my basic ranks and achievements in one cohesive DMC5 package. But anyway, style switching officially added to DMC3, wow. That's a fan request for the ages I never thought I'd see. Now the only big long-time fan request remaining would be original levels for Dante in a re-release of 4. But they would never do that, right?